The air inside the diplomatic chamber was thick with the scent of ionized metal and something faintly citrusy. Ambassador Julek of the Vorthax Dominion sat rigidly in his chair, his four eyes locked on the human across from him. Negotiations had been going smoothly until now. Ethan leaned back, completely unaware of the silent horror playing out in Julek's mind. He had unwrapped a small container from his satchel, releasing a pungent, spicy aroma into the room. Julek's sensory whiskers recoiled. "What? Is that?" Julek finally asked, his voice tighter than usual. Ethan grinned. "Hot wings." Julek's translator struggled for a moment before rendering the phrase into something comprehensible. He studied the human's expression, but there was no sign of hesitation or concern. "You consume." Molten material. Julek's voice wavered. Ethan laughed. No, it's just spicy. Peppers, seasonings, good stuff." Julek's gaze flicked to the wings as Ethan casually plucked one from the pile. The surface glistened with an unnatural red sheen. His species had encountered many bizarre human customs, but this was new. Ethan took a bite. Julek tensed. The human's face contorted slightly, and his breathing changed. A bead of sweat formed on his forehead. Julek quickly scanned him for physiological distress. Temperature regulation was fluctuating. Capillary dilation increasing. "You are in pain," Julek observed. Ethan waved him off. "It's part of the experience." Julek's disbelief deepened. He had read about human endurance, their irrational enjoyment of discomfort, but seeing it unfold in real time was unsettling. "Why subject yourself to this?" Julek asked. "Because it tastes amazing," Ethan said through a strained breath. He took another bite. His face reddened further. Julek glanced at the dish again. The sauce coating the wings had a texture eerily reminiscent of the lava flows on Vorthax 6. The comparison was not lost on him. "Your body is actively rejecting it," Julek pointed out. Ethan coughed and took a deep swig from his water bottle. "Yeah, that's normal?" Julek's mind reeled. The human was willingly consuming something that was making his body react as if in distress. He had seen humans endure extreme temperatures, battle through injuries, and push themselves beyond reasonable limits, but this was unnecessary self-inflicted suffering. "You should stop," Julek said. Ethan chuckled. "I just got started." He reached for another wing. Julek turned to the other Vorthax officials in the room. They were equally transfixed, their expressions a mix of revulsion and curiosity. "Is this common?" Julek asked the human diplomat seated beside Ethan. The woman, Sarah, barely glanced up from her tablet. "Oh yeah, some people even eat wings that are way hotter than those." Julek felt a ripple of unease. "More intense than this?" "Yep," she tapped at her screen. "There are contests where people eat wings so spicy they hallucinate." Julek's appendages curled in shock. "This is a form of recreation." Ethan, eyes watering, nodded. "Yeah, builds character." Julek turned back to the dish, his mind working through the implications. Humans were not only consuming food that visibly harmed them, but they had made it a competition. At that moment, Ethan shifted in his seat, his breathing heavier. His hands trembled slightly. Julek's concern deepened. "Explain the biological purpose of this," Julek demanded. Ethan wiped his forehead. "No real purpose. We just like the challenge." Julek struggled to process this. His species valued efficiency, survival, and calculated risks. There was no logic in consuming something that caused distress when alternatives existed. Ethan took another bite. His face contorted again. Julek had seen battle wounds that elicited less visible discomfort. "You are damaging yourself." Ethan took another swig of water. "It's temporary." Julek wasn't convinced. The human was actively sweating, his speech slightly strained. His cardiovascular system was responding as if he were under duress. "This is disturbing," Julek admitted. Sarah sighed. "This is nothing. You should see what happens when people go for the extra spicy stuff." Julek looked back at Ethan, who was now rubbing his temples. His respiratory rate was still elevated. Are you certain this will not harm you long-term? Julek asked. Ethan nodded sluggishly. I'll feel it tomorrow, but yeah, I'll be fine. Julek did not find that reassuring. The other Vorthax officials murmured among themselves. One of them, an elder statesman, finally spoke. Ambassador Julek, we must consider the implications of this. Julek agreed. If humans willingly inflicted suffering on themselves for entertainment, what did that say about their tolerance for actual hardship? Ethan reached for another wing. Julek's appendages twitched. You are still consuming them. Ethan grinned through the discomfort. I can't stop now. That'd be embarrassing. Julek leaned back, his mind spiraling through the consequences. Humans had already demonstrated a baffling resilience, but this was something else. For the first time in his career, Julek felt genuine uncertainty about what humanity was truly capable of. Julek's appendages remained stiff as he watched Ethan reach for another wing, his fingers already stained with the unnatural red substance. The human's breathing remained irregular, his skin visibly reacting. The room had fallen silent, save for the faint sound of Ethan exhaling slowly through his nose, as if trying to maintain control over some internal combustion. Julek turned to Sarah. How does your species develop immunity to this? Sarah barely looked up from her tablet. We don't. We just build tolerance. Julek's mind reeled. So you repeatedly expose yourselves to discomfort until you can endure it. Sarah nodded. Pretty much. Julek's sensory whiskers twitched. The concept was foreign to him. Vorthax physiology adapted to environmental conditions over generations, not through conscious, repeated exposure to distress. The idea that humans would voluntarily subject themselves to something harmful in order to get used to it unsettled him. Ethan, still red-faced, exhaled and flexed his fingers. That's the good burn. Julek studied him. You describe pain as good. Ethan grinned, albeit through slightly gritted teeth. Yeah, it's a rush. Julek turned back to the dish. The vibrant red coating still resembled hazardous material. His mind searched for an explanation beyond sheer recklessness. The elder Vorthax official, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. If this sensation is unpleasant but desirable, does it serve a ritualistic purpose? Ethan shrugged. Not really. It's just fun. Julek exchanged glances with his peers. Fun. The concept existed among the Vorthax, but it was typically tied to efficiency or intellectual engagement. The idea of deliberately courting discomfort for enjoyment felt paradoxical. Another Vorthax delegate cautiously leaned forward. Does this reaction indicate your body is attempting to reject the substance? Ethan wiped his forehead. Kind of. It's capsaicin. It tricks my nerves into thinking I'm in pain without actually harming me. Julek's appendages curled in unease. Your kind willingly consumes a chemical that deceives your nervous system. Sarah finally set her tablet down. It's not just consumed either. Some people put it in their eyes for sport. Julek's mind blanked. Their eyes. Ethan winced. Yeah, that's a bit extreme, even for me. Julek stared at Sarah. And they survive. She nodded. They regret it, but yeah. Julek felt a ripple of unease spread among the Vorthax delegation. Their species had carefully refined sensory adaptations over millennia. The idea of willingly compromising a sensory organ for the sake of spectacle was inconceivable. Ethan exhaled sharply and reached for his water again. Julek observed the action closely. Does water counteract the effects? Ethan grimaced. Not really. Makes it worse sometimes. Julek's secondary left eye twitched, yet you continue to drink it. Ethan hesitated. It's habit. Julek turned to his peers. Humans deliberately consume substances that deceive their nervous system, then attempt ineffective countermeasures out of habit. The elder Vorthax official exhaled slowly. This explains much. Ethan chuckled. What's that supposed to mean? Julek hesitated. Your species' resilience is often described in historical reports, but this suggests a deeper disregard for comfort. Ethan smirked. We like pushing limits. Julek absorbed that statement carefully. The Vorthax valued limits. They respected biological thresholds and maintained efficiency within their natural capabilities. But humans actively sought out discomfort, not just to overcome it but to revel in it. The elder Vorthax official turned to Julek. This has diplomatic implications. Julek nodded. Indeed. Ethan wiped his hands on a napkin and leaned back. You guys are acting like I just swallowed fire. Julek regarded him evenly. Did you not? Ethan grinned. Not literally. Julek turned to Sarah. Are there greater extremes humans attempt beyond this? She tilted her head. Oh, definitely. Some people consume levels of capsaicin so intense they temporarily lose their ability to function. Julek was silent for a long moment. Voluntarily. Sarah nodded. The Vorthax delegation exchanged glances. Julek had studied human physiology extensively. He knew they could endure extreme conditions, but this was different. This was self-imposed. Ethan clapped his hands together. All right. That was solid. Julek regarded him cautiously. You consider this a success? Ethan grinned. Didn't tap out. Julek took a slow breath. You measure success by your ability to endure suffering. Ethan laughed. Kinda yeah. Julek's appendages tightened. That is deeply concerning. Ethan shrugged. You get used to it. Julek wasn't sure he ever would. Julek kept his gaze fixed on Ethan as the human leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. The color in his face had begun to even out, though a faint sheen of sweat still lingered on his forehead. The rest of the Vorthax delegation remained silent, each of them processing what they had just witnessed. The elder official finally spoke. Ambassador Julek, we must reassess our understanding of human thresholds. Julek inclined his head slightly. Agreed. Ethan wiped his hands on a napkin before stretching his fingers, as though testing to see if he still had full control over them. You guys are really making a bigger deal out of this than it is. Julek studied him carefully. Perhaps because your species consistently challenges our perception of what is reasonable. Ethan chuckled. Well, you're not wrong. One of the junior Vorthax delegates hesitated before speaking. If this act is recreational, are there further intensities humans pursue? Julek stiffened. They had already established that humans sought out discomfort, but the possibility of further extremes felt almost redundant. Yet, Ethan's expression suggested otherwise. Oh yeah, Ethan said. Some people go for full-body spice immersion. Ever heard of capsaicin extract? Julek's secondary left eye twitched slightly. Elaborate. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. There's a purified version of what makes spicy food burn. Some people consume it directly. It's thousands of times more intense than what I just ate. Julek felt a ripple of unease pass through his limbs. And their bodies withstand this. Ethan shrugged. Temporarily. The room fell into a heavy silence. Julek had assumed they had already reached the limits of human endurance, yet Ethan was casually introducing entirely new thresholds of suffering. The elder official shifted slightly. What is the purpose of this? Ethan grinned. Bragging rights. Julek's appendages curled inward. He turned to Sarah, who had remained detached throughout the exchange. Do you also partake in this? She shook her head. Nope. But I know people who do. Julek studied her for a moment before returning his attention to Ethan. And you. Ethan exhaled. I've tried some strong stuff, but nothing that made me black out. Julek's secondary right eye twitched this time. Blackout. Ethan's grin faltered slightly. Yeah, some people temporarily lose awareness from the intensity. Julek turned to the elder official. We must document this. The elder nodded. It is imperative we account for the extent of human tolerance. Ethan laughed under his breath. You guys are acting like we're some kind of anomaly. Julek's gaze remained steady. You are. Ethan smirked. You just need time to get used to it. Julek wasn't sure he ever would. Julek observed Ethan carefully, his mind still struggling to reconcile what he had witnessed. The other Vorthax delegates remained tense, their gazes flicking between the human and the remnants of the so-called hot wings. The elder official had already begun discreetly recording notes on his datapad, no doubt recalibrating their diplomatic approach to humanity. Ethan stretched his fingers, his breathing almost back to normal. He seemed pleased with himself, as if he had accomplished something significant. Julek wasn't sure if he should be impressed or concerned. One of the junior Vorthax officials hesitated before speaking. If this level of discomfort is tolerable to you, how do you determine when something is truly unbearable? Julek stiffened. It was a question that had been forming in the back of his own mind. Humans clearly had an unusual relationship with suffering, but where did they draw the line? Ethan tilted his head, considering the question. That's tricky. It depends on the person. Some people have higher pain thresholds than others. Julek's sensory whiskers twitched. You mean to say that even within your species, some willingly endure more than others? Ethan nodded. Yeah, some train for it. Athletes, soldiers, people who do extreme challenges. Julek exchanged glances with the elder official. And you consider this training useful? Ethan shrugged. Sometimes. It can help in tough situations. Julek leaned forward slightly. So you deliberately condition yourselves for suffering. Ethan exhaled. I wouldn't put it that way, but yeah, I guess we do. Julek turned to Sarah, who had remained composed throughout the exchange. And you? Do you engage in this conditioning? She shook her head. No, but I understand why people do. The elder Vorthax official tapped his datapad thoughtfully. This suggests that humans do not merely tolerate hardship, they seek to master it. Ethan grinned. That's one way to put it. Julek's mind whirred. His species adapted to challenges over generations, evolving gradually in response to environmental pressures. The idea that humans could force themselves to endure discomfort through sheer willpower was unsettling. Another Vorthax delegate hesitated before speaking. Is there a limit to what your bodies can withstand? Ethan chuckled. Oh, definitely. We're not indestructible. Julek narrowed his eyes. But you willingly push yourselves to that threshold. Ethan hesitated. It depends on the situation. Julek kept his gaze steady. And in this situation, you knowingly consumed something that caused immediate distress. Ethan exhaled. Yeah, but I knew it wouldn't kill me. Julek turned to the elder official. This confirms our earlier discussions. Humans do not merely endure suffering, they evaluate it, calculate the risks, and proceed regardless. The elder nodded. A species that does not fear discomfort but instead navigates it with deliberate intent. Ethan leaned back. You guys are making this sound way more dramatic than it is. Julek regarded him carefully. It is dramatic to those who do not share your perspective. Ethan smirked. Guess that's fair. Julek turned to Sarah. Do all humans view hardship this way? She considered the question. Not all. Some avoid it. But a lot of us see value in overcoming difficulty. The elder official tapped his datapad again. Then this is not solely a matter of physical endurance. It is a mentality. Ethan shrugged. I suppose so. Julek sat back, his mind racing. This revelation had implications far beyond diplomacy. If humans approached all challenges in this way, it meant they could adapt to nearly any hardship not through biological necessity, but through sheer determination. The elder official turned to Julek. We must reassess our approach. Julek nodded. Agreed. We have miscalculated their tolerance. Ethan sighed. You guys are acting like I just redefined human nature. Julek's gaze remained steady. Perhaps you have. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. You're overthinking it. Julek wasn't so sure. Julek's mind worked through the implications of everything he had learned. The Vorthax had always viewed humans as resilient, but this was something else entirely. They weren't merely enduring hardship, they were actively forging themselves against it. He could not decide if this made them admirable or deeply unsettling. The elder official's gaze remained fixed on Ethan. If your species willingly acclimates to distress, it changes the parameters of our negotiations. Ethan tilted his head. How so? Julek answered before the elder could. We had assumed that human tolerance was a fixed biological trait, something we could measure and account for. But if you can train yourselves to withstand greater extremes, then your limits are unpredictable. Ethan leaned back, considering this. I suppose that's true. The Vorthax delegation exchanged glances. This was not a minor revelation. It was a fundamental shift in how they perceived humanity. Julek exhaled slowly. It means we cannot assess your breaking point with certainty. Sarah finally spoke. Most of the time we don't know our own limits until we hit them. Julek's appendages curled slightly. The idea of a species that did not fully comprehend its own endurance was difficult to process. The Vorthax had spent generations refining their understanding of their physiological constraints, ensuring efficiency and survival. Humans, by contrast, operated on a system of trial and error. The elder official's voice was measured. This may require us to renegotiate certain agreements. Ethan frowned. Why? Julek turned to him. Because if we cannot determine your species' limitations, we cannot accurately assess risk. That changes how we engage with you diplomatically, economically, and strategically. Ethan exhaled. You guys are really taking this seriously. Julek's gaze remained steady. Because it is serious. Sarah glanced at Ethan. They're not wrong. If they can't predict how much humans can endure, it complicates things. The elder official nodded. Precisely. If your species does not recognize its own limits, we must assume they are far greater than previously estimated. Ethan rubbed his chin. Never thought about it like that. Julek studied him. Many species have not. A quiet tension settled over the room. The Vorthax delegation was recalibrating their entire approach to humanity in real time. Julek could see it in the way his peers exchanged glances, the way their appendages remained slightly curled in contemplation. The elder official turned to Julek. We must revise our reports. Julek nodded. Agreed. Ethan sighed. So what does that mean for us? Julek met his gaze. It means that our understanding of your species has fundamentally changed. We must now account for variables we did not previously consider. Sarah folded her arms. Are you saying this could affect future treaties? The elder official considered this. Not negatively, but adjustments must be made. Ethan exhaled. All because of hot wings. Julek's gaze didn't waver. Because of what they represent. A long silence followed. Ethan eventually chuckled. Well, I guess I'm glad I decided to eat them today. Julek's expression remained serious. So are we. The elder official stood. This meeting has been productive. We will return to our council with our findings. Ethan and Sarah exchanged glances before standing as well. Julek lingered for a moment, his mind still processing everything. He had expected a simple diplomatic discussion, but what he had gained was far more significant. As the humans gathered their belongings, Ethan glanced at Julek. So does this change how you see us? Julek gave a slow nod. Yes. Ethan smirked. Good or bad? Julek considered his answer carefully. Neither, merely different. Ethan chuckled. I'll take that. As the Vorthax delegation exited the chamber, Julek knew one thing for certain: humanity was far more complex than they had ever